got a few things to do, but just thought I'd make a quick video on how my experience was like in Thailand for my first week within the year. I stayed there for a year. It was an amazing experience, and I'd absolutely love to go back and visit, you know, see if my class still remembers me by the time I go, and go and explore places and pockets that I haven't been able to explore before. That would be really fun. I flew out in May 2015. I paid for the tickets, which were about ranging from, I think they were about 450, and that was return. Now they do tell you that you need a return flight, but a lot of people that I met when I was over there didn't even bother with a ticket back. So I had to actually readjust that later because I wanted to spend a bit more time exploring other countries and things. So I would just say, just have enough saved so you can book your ticket back when you need to, because you just never know what you might want to end up doing when you're traveling. So I got on the train. I got on the plane. The plane was pretty, it was a smooth ride. I flew with Thai Airlines. For the position that I accepted, I was based in Canterbury, which is maybe about 2 hours away from Pattaya, or Pattaya, however you want to pronounce it, for the people that are interested in its location. I'll probably mark it on the map somewhere, but it's a gorgeous little town, and I'm not going to go too much into that either, just because this is solely about my experience for the first week. And when we first arrived, we got contract sims in the airport. I was lucky enough to get collected from the airport, Suvarnabhumi, yeah. And it was quite nice. The seats were leather, recliner, and you had like some snacks and drinks in there, and it was very cozy, comfortable, and everyone had their own separate seat. We weren't sitting together. Stopped off at a 7-Eleven, and next to 7-Eleven there were separate toilets, and my first toilet obviously is practically like a hole in the floor, and I've never seen one close up. And I literally took a picture, and my phone was still working with data and stuff because my mom had to make sure that I was okay and safe, or she really would have lost her mind. And I sent her a picture like, Mom, look at this. Literally, it was just hilarious. I was laughing. I couldn't believe that I had to squat. We call it squat pots. She had like spray hoses, which was quite popular. You use a little hose to do what you gotta do, but you still have to use the bucket to flush the toilet. Just put it down there and you get used to maneuvering them. I just remember the heat hitting me, and I've had this a couple of times before where I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot it's really, really hot, and I wish I was wearing something a little bit less, you know, clingy. Getting off, it was hot, humid, AC constantly blasting, you know, you're just not used to it. You're the foreigner from a cold country with lots of rain. So it was just like, oh my God, look, the sun's out all the time, and people are like in shorts and flip-flops and Crocs and stuff. Probably speak more in Canterbury itself because it's a lovely little city. So I arrived there, and they were humble enough to put me up for a week in a hotel. Now this hotel was huge. And the beds, you'll find in Thailand that the beds are really huge. Maybe like probably a queen size, king size, just really huge. You could probably fit about 3 people in. 3 people in these beds. Beds were pretty hard, and I remember there was ants on the floor, and I couldn't leave any food out. I had to always take it to the garbage chute in the main foyer. And I just thought to myself, like, I would have been happy to live there, but the internet was kind of a bit crap, to be honest, and I would rather have a space of my own. Even though they had like laundry facilities and stuff at this hotel, I'm not actually going to name them because obviously people might want to go there, and I don't want to put them off, but it's one of the main, it's not far from the school I was working at anyway. So I went to this hotel, stayed there for a week. Amongst that week, you were having your orientation, so like training, which a lot of places do. When you go to Asia, you have your orientation and training for teaching English. So you got to meet other staff members, your documentations, you would hand them in, fill in any other documents that you need to, and then they'll show you around the classroom and show you your timetable, have a few group meetings, meet different like heads and authority figures within the school, and just kind of give you a brief of how to use certain equipment and you know, talk about different strategies and things. I remember deciding to walk to try and find the school for the first day that we were supposed to be in the school for the orientation. And I remember getting lost on my way to work. I think everyone else left at a different time. I was walking up the hill. I wasn't far. Now I think about it, I really wasn't far. So I got lost and I was like, this doesn't look correct kind of thing. Like, where am I? And a random stranger came up and asked me in English, are you okay? And I was like, I can't find my school. And I told them the school. And they just said, like, come on, hop on my bike. And I was like, oh, are you serious? And they gave me a lift. They gave me a lift to the school. So that was a really really good first impression. But in the heat and you're not sure where you're going, and then you've got crazy dogs on the side of the road, it felt horrible because you've been sweating a lot. And it was quite an adventure. By the second day, I was like, I can't do this. There's no way in hell. Because we're just walking too much. So I had my friend, luckily I made a friend there, and she'd been there a year previously. So she says, I'm gonna actually go and rent a bike. Do you wanna come with? And I was like, awesome, I'm on it. I kind of, for some reason, normally I'm a bit hesitant, but I was like, the heat, the walking. The first bike that I got was like a red bike. I don't know what the brand or the make was, but it was pretty easy and maneuverable. I remember going into the shop and he was very good with his English, really good, and very friendly and happy. And he says, you try kind of thing. And I was like, oh, like right now. I didn't expect for some reason to go straight into trying and practicing. So my friend, and he says, your friend can show you. And I was like, oh, isn't there like someone official to kind of teach me how? And he was like, it's fine. And she was like, yeah, come, it's no problem. So we were there for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, just me doing laps and practicing how to turn and practicing like the different speeds, how to stop and brake and the indicators and the horn and stuff. So I was just practicing on this patch of land like right next to the bike place. And she was like, I think you're ready. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And she's like, come on then, let's go. And I was like, what? It was just very fast paced. I didn't really, for some reason, I don't know what I was expecting, but it was really fast paced. So all he needed from me was literally my passport and a deposit. We went onto the road and I just had my helmet. Obviously they give you protection. And I remember screaming my whole way. I was just like, ah! Because if you haven't been to Thailand before, the traffic is absolutely crazy. People are beeping and, you know, swerving in and out of each other. Some drivers are totally reckless, but it just seems like it's kind of like your own rules on the road. And I hate to say that, but it kind of is like that. And I just felt really intimidated. I remember just clinging to the side of the, like where the curb is, next to the pavement. I didn't care. I was like, I'm in my safe zone. I'm just gonna take it easy. So I was going really slow. And my friend was just zooming ahead and I was like, oh God, I've got to try and keep up with her. Like she kind of tried to slow down for me, but I could tell she was used to it. So she just wanted to race ahead. I just thought, I was still screaming. Check your mirrors, like you've got to watch hard. That was an experience in itself. I really enjoyed though having a bike and a moped, just to have that sense of freedom. Now I do know people that had taxis and things, but it does end up costing a lot more. My moped, I took it everywhere. I took it to the beach, I took it to nearby cities, took it to Koh Chang, which I absolutely adore. That was like my home from home from home. On the second day, I had already had a bike. I was already driving a bike, and I was really proud of myself because a lot of people said that it took them like maybe a week or two to kind of convince themselves to drive it. Very more careful and wary when I heard these horror stories of people having to go into hospital and pay these fees and things like that and being ticketed or fined, which I have been fined actually. That was because I did an illegal turn. I turned right and used that road. No one was there. Used that, well, so I thought. Used that road to turn round in. So I didn't go all the way down. I just turned around, kind of did a U-turn in the side road. And lo and behold, there was a policeman there. But luckily my teachers helped me out because they had somebody in the police force that could kind of like help me through it. And I didn't get charged as much as I thought I would. It was probably like a tenner, I think. First week, we had to find an accommodation and fast. So we were so lucky to have support from the staff, from the Thai staff, that would show us to houses that have already been used by foreigners in the past, or foreigner friendly, as I should say. At first we were all looking for something individual, our own spaces, but it ended up costing a lot, and some of them were like non-furnished or half furnished and just not worth the money for the space that you had. So we ended up, the 3 that I arrived with and was communicating with a little bit before we arrived in Thailand, because we were all getting picked up at the same time. So we all booked our flights according to each other, like coordinating, trying to anyway, although we're all from different countries. We ended up living together in a house, and the location was a little bit further from where the hotel was. We all had some form of transport. We were okay, we all had bikes, we all got bikes in the end. Absolutely loved my house. I was lucky I was on the top floor. I had an ensuite shower. If I can find the footage that I recorded, then I'll upload it as something separate, but I'll put a few pictures up anyway so you can see what it's like. What else happened in my first week that I found interesting? Oh yeah, so I think it was after we had something to eat, we decided to go for dessert. Now, something about Asian desserts they are still sweet, but you wouldn't, it's not your typical dessert. They don't do your typical desserts that you think, oh, it's like a cake. It was like condensed milk, these soft dough balls that were different colors, pasta was in it, sweet corn was in it, I think coconut milk might have been in it as well, and then oh my gosh, it was like a poached egg almost inside the meal. I'll show you a picture. It was really random, and you don't want to be rude when you try these things. You want to try and eat as much as you can, but I could not hide my discontent with this dessert, and I think it's like a national Thai dessert, so I was told by my staff friends, and I didn't like it at all. But it was very interesting to know and try it. It was really fun to learn what people like, and it's so interesting what's tasty in one country and what's tasty in another. You know, in England we have really basic things like Victoria sponge, apple crumble, lemon and meringue pie, waffles and stuff. So that's the kind of standard desserts that we would have here, but that's what's tasty to us. So to see that in Thailand and see that that's what they love and adore, like they were just eating it up, but they did watch and wait like this, just waiting to see my reaction, and I was just like, oh, interesting, oh, and then they told me everything that was in there, and I was just like, I can't finish this, but thank you. And they found it absolutely hilarious. They loved it, so they got an enjoyment out of my discontent, which was good. That was within my first week as well. Just exploring, looking around and seeing what Chan had to offer, which, like I said, I will discuss later, because there is so much in Canterbury and I miss it so much. It's an amazing place. Being really nervous to make friends and meet people, but you just have to put yourself out there. When you're in a new country, you really have to be bright, be happy, and just get to know people, and don't be afraid, because you've done the hardest part, which is getting there, and the rest will follow. Like, everybody's in the same boat. It just reminded me of uni. So hope this was fun to learn and you got to see some of the pictures. See and speak to you later. Okay, see you soon. Bye. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram if you wish.